So today we're going to talk about Fast Eddie Clarke solo technique. I know that I've made a lot of videos on this already, but we're going to finally kind of dig into it and then talk about break down the licks, right? So there'll be more videos to come. This is for Motorhead fans only. I don't want anybody else watching it that doesn't worship Fast Eddie Clarke. I would say the only guitar player that's greater than Fast Eddie Clarke is Hendrix, because Eddie Clarke is influenced by Hendrix, right? So beyond that, Fast Eddie Clarke should be your favorite guitar player if you're watching this. I would actually say, if you don't know Fast Eddie Clarke's dog's name, it's still alive, right? You shouldn't be watching this. So I'm going to assume that this is only people that are watching as Motorhead fans. Alright, so I'm giving you time for you to leave, because I don't want to give these secrets out to people who don't think Eddie Clarke is the greatest guitar player. To me, he is the greatest. Right? Because he transports you to another dimension. So we're going to be talking about Capricorn. And then just one little solo part will, kind of go through that lick. 1,000 nights I spent alone, solitaire to the bone. Right? If you're a Motorhead fan, you already kind of crapped in your pants when you did this. Like, how the fuck did you do that? Right? That should make your hair stand up. So if you're coming from this world, you won't understand it. That's why I said those people need not be here. Those people leave. So we're going to talk about that part, what I just did, okay? So where does this come from? We kind of talked about this many times already. This is blues guitar playing, right? So the primary function here is to express emotion through bends. So you have to get this down. Full bend, maybe a half bend. Don't half-ass it. So what will happen is, any blues player will tell you, is that you need calluses for this to work. And then when I play guitar normally, like, other kinds of metal, right? The skin on my fingers, little bits of flakes don't come off, because we're not playing like this. There's not too many bends, right? This is all bends. So what's going to happen is that basically little bits of skin will come off here, right? And then you have to build those calluses. Probably if you don't have calluses already, this is not even going to work. So this goes back to basically blues guitar playing from the 1920s, 30s, and 40s. How this started is that you would go visit Muddy Waters in the plantation, and then he would show you a guitar lick. So a guitar lick is something like this, right? That's a little piece of music, right? This is how this is that you kind of reuse little pieces of music, little pieces. It's like a motif that's already there. So you would go show him one of your licks. So this is called lick trading. And then you would both walk away influenced by each other, and then that'll become part of your lick repertoire. And then you'd be like, oh wait, that's a Muddy Waters lick. So you can actually find, many people have done it on YouTube, like, okay, what is a Buddy Guy lick? What is a typical Muddy Waters lick? And then each of them will kind of phrase differently. So this is about phrasing, right? This is about phrasing. Like I said, if you come from the world of bullshit solo, right? And I play bullshit solos sometimes. Some of the other stuff that I do, right? You know that. I don't want to point it out, but you know that. When I kind of go into, kind of extreme playing, right? Those are bullshit solos. I know that. This is real soloing. The warning here is you actually have to play the guitar, right? You actually have to play the guitar and then, make it say something. So that only comes from phrasing like this. That says more than all of this. Right? Doesn't say anything. It's bullshit. That's the real shit. 3 notes. 3 notes says more than 3 million notes. Right? So, so that's where it comes from. And then people like, because Eddie Clarke is influenced by Hendrix and Eric Clapton. So Hendrix, what he did, each generation of guitar players, what they do is they digest guitar players before them, that came before them, and sort of give it to you in a way that hasn't been done before. So Hendrix basically took like maybe about 50 black musicians, you know, Albert King, B.B. King, you know, all these people, right? Robert Johnson, you know, Muddy Waters. Like I said, you know, the licks of all those people, put it all into a bombastic way that's never been done before in electric guitar, and boom, you know, rock and roll is born, you know, in a way that's where I guess hard rock is born. Because rock and roll, then it's like Little Richard and Elvis, right? That's kind of rock and roll. But then so it's like guitar-based hard rock is born with Hendrix, right? And then he's also influenced a lot by ZZ Top. So Billy Gibbons, I think that's his name. So if you listen to Billy Gibbons' style of playing, you'll hear, you know, Fast Eddie Clarke's type of playing. So, yeah. So ZZ Top, I made a video on that, you know, the connection with Motorhead and ZZ Top before. And then, so this first solo, right? So you have to kind of break it down, and it's basically a pentatonic pattern. So it's not the notes, but it's what you do with the notes. So if I play it by itself like that, it sounds Chinese almost, right? But then we can do... That sounds sick. That sounds mind-boggling, right? So I made this little diagram for you. You know this already. So that is the pentatonic pattern, and then the note that's circled is a root note. So it kind of looks like a K, right? So that whole solo is just based on that right there, that pattern. All the notes are in there. So you've seen this before. So people will say, oh, that's the box pattern, don't learn that. Well, millions of blues players have been using that. Right? Millions of blues players have been using that pattern. And then, only somebody who's kind of a guitar snob will tell you, well, don't learn the patterns, don't learn scales, right? So you use it as building blocks to basically, say something. There's a reason why it's popular, because it fits over everything. So remember, it's not this. If you play it by itself, it sounds lame, right? But it's what you do with it. So we're going to try to dissect that, because we've already talked about a lot of the stuff. So get your sort of, you can tell I'm excited about this. Right? So you're going to have to get that full bend going. And a lot of times that can be hard, because unless you built your calluses, right, that's not going to come easy for you, right? So what we're going to do is we just have to, if you think about it completely, it's mind-boggling. Right? I can probably play it a little bit faster. So you should just wake up and practice that. If that's too complicated, right, do something, similar or simple, like this. Like that lick right there. Right? It's just a pull-off. So you got pull-offs and bends, but it's how you sort of put it together. So let's dissect that lick right there. The Capricorn solo, right? The first solo. Big bend. Remember, this is basically made up of little motifs, like I talked about, licks from that you collected from from other people, from Muddy Waters, B.B. King, Albert King, things like that, right? You hear a lot of that influence here. I hear a lot of Chuck Berry. So I hear Chuck Berry in Fast Eddie Clarke's playing, and also Billy Gibbons, and Billy Gibbons is probably influenced by other black musicians. So Hendrix, like I said, kind of digested 50 of those musicians and then gave it to us in a different way, and then that influenced all these other players. So what you need to understand here is that little bits of music has already been written, and you sort of rearrange it in a way, and that becomes your solo. So again, this is mind-boggling. Because you're expressing yourself, right? But if you break it down, this is what's happening. That's the first part. The second part is, that's a very common lick. You can move it anywhere. So if I move it here, then I play it in the key of A. Right? I just moved it in the key of A. So this part, right? So that's the second part. The third part is, or is that the fourth part? Yeah. Alright, that's the third part. So you got a hammer on. The fourth part is vibrato. So the thing is that even that is awesome, right? And then you listen to it, and it makes the hair stand up in your hand, because it's all about expressing yourself through the guitar. And the way you express yourself is bends, vibrato, hammer on, and pull. So when you play technical guitar, right, it's stupid because you don't have time to kind of phrase it. So this is a completely different approach. So you understand it now, right? So you have to sort of think about it like that. December child, the only one. What I do. I was actually born in February. I'm an Aquarius. Like I said, I'll repeat this again for the nth time, is that when you put it all together, it's mind-boggling. It's like, shit, how do you play like that? Well, I would just practice all these separately and just move that around. By itself, it sounds kind of lame. It's like, that's just blues shit, right? Even when I play it, right, it's not as effective as Fast Eddie Clarke. The reason why it's called Fast Eddie Clarke is that he can execute that shit quick, right? Like, how fast can I go without sounding sloppy? If you go too fast, it doesn't make sense. It has to be within the rhythm of the song. This solo is written to fit in the rhythm of the song. Because this right here just blows my mind. That's it. Blows my mind. 3 notes. Right? That blows my mind. Because you never hear anything like that. Right? You've never heard anything like that. So when you play, you have to get expressive. So although it seems easy, right? It's harder to, you can do that mindlessly. If I play it like this, right, it sounds lame. It doesn't sound like you mean it. So you got to put your heart into it, just like singing. That I talked about believability, right? Same thing. So you have to practice. So again, to sum it up, I would practice this in parts. And I would just play that. If you haven't built your calluses, even that's hard for you, you should just get that. Play that for like a week. Like I said, all these notes are right here. It's all those notes right there. Right? It's those same notes. So if you can't transcribe it, it's one of those notes. I would just practice that over and over again. That's the first part. Second part, and like you can move that anywhere. Then third part, fourth part. Remember in the last video I did on this during Christmas time, and then we talked about how, you know, and then I said it has to be singable. Wow, 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 right? It's got to be singable. So the same thing here. If it's not singable, it's not memorable. Now, it's okay to do bullshit like that, like the last part, but you don't want it to be all bullshit, right? There's a part of a solo that's bullshit. We all know this, right? But then you have to kind of buck it down, and then there's a part of a solo where you just I got to be serious right now. To me, that just blows my mind, right? If you do it in a full sequence. If you do it in a full sequence. Anyway, so I just gave you the secret. Like I said, this is not new. That's as old as dirt. Right? So what he's done, he's sort of added his own bits to it. That's why we call the blues, what do they call it? Something blue, something borrowed, something old, right? Something old, something borrowed, something blue, right? So that's the thing here, is that you have to get into that mentality, is that music is basically kind of recycled and kind of, arranged together. The more you understand that, and, you let your, ego go. And then, you don't think about it as like, I composed this, you know what I mean? You have that kind of that, Mozart complex or something like that. It's a little bit of bullshit, a little bit of, seriousness, and then a little bit of just kind of, excitement here and there, and then that's how you create that solo. And of course, that's just one part of that solo. There's many solos in that song. And, we'll cover interesting kind of cool Fast Eddie Clarke licks in the future, all right? So I hope you found this interesting. So I finally kind of broke down and gave you the secret. So you should walk away from this understanding, oh shit, how does he do his magic? Well, it's basically just blues guitar, right? It's basically blues phrasing, and then, you express yourself through, like I said, a vibrato, hammer-ons, pull-offs, and then this riff right here is a hammer-on and pull-off, right? Right? You do a bend. It's like a hammer-on and pull-off. That's so common. Isn't that the most common blues thing? Blues licks are the same thing. So you can kind of, make up your own blues licks. Like I said again, something blue, something borrowed, something old, something borrowed, something blue, right? Once you understand that, but when you hear Fast Eddie Clarke playing, right, it's done so, in a way that it's so captivating and so interesting that it doesn't sound like anything. That's the, killer. That's the key here, is that it doesn't sound like he's using something that's already been done, but it's so fast. That's why it's called Fast Eddie Clarke, right? It's so fast and it's done like that, that you kind of get away from, you go, wow, how the fuck did he do that? Right? So that is the mark of a genius. Okay? So I hope you found this interesting. I'll explore this topic further. So that is one lick. So you should be able to play that in one fluid motion. And then go into each of those notes and just kind of feel that, right? All right, hope you found this interesting. I will talk to you in the next video, Motorhead video, about this topic, all right?